Welcome to the H.D. Smith Pharmacy Podcast Series, recorded live at the NCPA Annual Convention and Exhibition in October of 2017. This podcast series is dedicated to independent community pharmacy owners throughout the country, and the topics and discussions are near and dear to the H.D. Smith team. H.D. Smith is the only national drug wholesaler dedicated exclusively to independently owned pharmacies and has been since 1954. H.D. Smith's consultant-style proactive account management helps pharmacies thrive and improve profitability in today's changing market. Share all these podcasts in this special series about topics and issues impacting the profitability and survivability of privately owned pharmacies with other owners and operators. Help us spread the word about supporting independently owned pharmacies. And now, here's the founder and host of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, Todd Eury.
Hey, Pharmacy Podcast listeners. We are here at the NCPA 2017 in Orlando, Florida, Gaylord Palms. I am honored to be part of the H.D. Smith team during the conference. Welcome back to the Pharmacy Podcast, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing really well. This is a dynamic conference. There's a lot of energy here.
A lot of energy.
Z-Dog, Dr. Zubin Damania was just amazing. I love his ideas about Health 3.0 and what that means for pharmacy integration and collaboration with physicians. But we are bringing you back, Rob, because of your expertise in the world of pharmacy wholesale, which is, the second most expensive item in a pharmacy's world, pharmacy owner's world? Or is it the first?
Your wholesaler is typically your largest vendor, so I would say it's your first.
Okay, and then probably your employees and your compensation and salary. Hey, so today we're going to talk about how to choose a wholesaler, questions to ask, good questions to ask, meaningful questions to ask, and building your RFP, your request for proposal. So first of all, Rob, just in your experience in wholesale, how does a community independent pharmacy go about choosing the right wholesaler?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Todd, first of all, thanks for having me back on the podcast. This is great. There is a lot of energy here. A lot of good ideas being shared at NCPA this year. So I would say that, and I've been doing this for 15 years, Todd, right? So I've seen a lot of RFPs, a lot of approaches, a lot of customer desires. And I think about what the pharmacy owner must be going through and say, there are three of these funnels in their business that they need to try and really master to make sure they're profitable, right? And they look at payers and patients and suppliers. And you're typically not going to squeeze your patients because they're the lifeblood of your pharmacy.
Right.
You typically have little power on your own to squeeze the payers, or the PBMs in this case. So you work with a PSAO to do that for you. So the one lever you think you can pull is the supplier lever, right? And that's in the RFP. That's your cost of goods. That's your partnership. And there are a couple things. Every wholesaler knows it ultimately comes down to what are the economics for the store. And the reality is that every wholesaler is going to be competitive on economics. That is the reality. So how are those economics structured for you as a store owner to maximize what ultimately goes in your bank account?
Right.
We'll talk through that today, Todd, I'm sure. The other thing I think is really important to talk through besides economics is, what does your wholesale partner see as a vision for both the market for community pharmacy and for your store, and does that vision align with your vision? And then ultimately, through that vision, what is the wholesaler doing to help put tangible assets into your pharmacy to allow that vision to become a reality?
Rob, something that you taught me when you came to the buying group that we used to run together, and you as the backbone, you taught me that just going out and finding an inexpensive generic deal isn't always it looks like a short-term win. But sometimes over the course of the contract with your primary wholesaler, you actually end up losing out. Can you kind of demystify that for me?
Yeah. So the immediate gratification of finding a generic on promotional price or an aggressive price does feel like today I won, right? Today, I went from losing money on this item to making money on this item, or losing less in some cases. And I understand that. I understand that mentality and the desire to do that. The reality is that in almost every case, it's been proven out that compliance to your wholesale primary contract actually is more beneficial economically in the long run. Let me walk you through a scenario.
Okay.
I'm going to make up some numbers here that usually bear out. Let's say that if you're compliant to the wholesaler contract, you receive a 20% rebate on your source generics.
Okay.
First of all, pharmacies need to look at the net price, meaning there's an invoice-to-invoice price comparison, but obviously there needs to be a net of rebate to invoice price comparison. In other words, this price on invoice might be higher with my primary wholesaler, but after you take the rebate out, it might be less than what I can buy it for through the generic secondary market. Beyond that, what happens is if you buy too many items away through the secondary market and you actually drop below your compliance and you lose out on the rebate opportunity to be paid on that generic, you don't just lose the opportunity to receive the rebate on the item that you're trying to shop. In some cases, if you drop below certain levels, you will lose rebate percentage points on all the generics that you purchase.
Wow. Okay.
And so moving even 3 or 4 items to a secondary wholesaler or another supply source might put you in jeopardy of receiving the rebates that you experience on everything that you buy from your primary wholesaler. And if you lose 2 or 3 or however many points of rebates on those on that total book of generics, you need to understand what the economic impact is to your business of losing the rebate on all of those purchases that otherwise go through your primary wholesaler. So the immediate gratification of buying a generic at a better price today is understandable. The economic impact of buying that item away may go far beyond just that one item, and that's something that every pharmacy owner needs to either understand or calculate at the time they're buying their generics for the day.
Rob, I really appreciate that clarification, and I want to tell the listeners, you're a pharmacy owner out there, the RFP is the first stage, which turns into the agreement between you and your primary wholesaler. So with that in mind, let's talk about transparency in the deal. Why is it so important to have everything between your customer, your pharmacy customer, and you as the wholesaler? What's so important about the transparency part?
Well, when you have a wholesaler who is trying to win your business so that they can supplement their smaller profits on somebody else's business, they're likely to hold all of the triggers in that deal so that you might feel like you have a really good deal on day one of year one of that new contract. And by the middle of year 2 or the end of year 2 and certainly in year 3, you feel like the market's gotten away from you. You feel like your deal is so much less competitive than it was on day 1 of year 1.
Yep.
And that's because your business has been neutralized by your wholesaler so that it can be profitizing or supplementing profits somewhere else. When you have a wholesaler that does not have that conflict of interest and you get transparency to how generic pricing moves with the market or how competitive you can be sustainably over time because your wholesaler partner is not using your business to supplement someone else, then you start to have real partnership. And look, 2 of the most overused buzzwords are partnership and transparency, right?
Yep.
What does it actually mean? Well, here's what I would say it means. If you get into a deal that you feel confident will be as competitive at the end of year 3 as it is today on day 1 of year 1, then however you got there probably was through transparency. If you don't feel like your deal is as competitive today as it was when you first signed it, or the one that you're trying to sign is not as competitive in year 3 as it will be right now, then you probably don't have transparency in your deal. And we call this deal creep, right? Okay. Deal creep is the feeling that by the end of year 2 or the start of year 3, you're being taken advantage of. And as a wholesaler, we work hard every day to make sure we're maximizing our profit potential in how we buy product, how we deliver product. That's a natural function of the supply chain. We're always looking to maximize efficiencies and or lower cost, which means as we do that, we're going to be able to be in a better position on your business in year 2 or year 3. Real partners don't unfairly profitize from your business when you've done everything that you're supposed to do and the wholesaler's done everything that they're supposed to do. So I don't want to give away any secret sauce other than to say, if you don't feel as good about your deal in year 2 or year 3 as you did on day 1 of year 1, then you've experienced deal creep, and you more than likely have no transparency in how you can maximize that deal.
Plus, let's remember that word that you said is overused, one of the 2 words, partnership. Partnership goes both ways. So as a community pharmacy owner, it's not just what the wholesaler is giving and what you are getting, but it's your faithfulness to that wholesaler and to your specific account manager or rep that you can go to and feel confident that if you have an issue, if you have a problem, if there's a delivery issue, that you can go to that individual and work together to come up to a solution and get things done for your business. And I think that a faithful H.D. Smith customer is much more favorited by the company and by the representatives than the flimsy, flippity, go to the shiniest trinket in the pile and going for all the so-called Best Buys in the generic land. But I think faithfulness goes both ways, Rob.
Todd, look, pharmacy right now is not easy, right?
Right.
What you did 5 years ago is no longer being recognized by the same compensation that you would get today, right? So in order to make enough money to support your employees, to support your lifestyle, to support your community, and to bring value to your patients, you have to do some things differently because you're not being recognized from a compensation standpoint the same way. So what have we done to make sure pharmacies remain profitable? Well, we have built deals that ensure that in year 3 they're still as competitive as they were in year 1. We have built the Arete Pharmacy Network to protect pharmacies on the sell side equation, right? So if the buy side equation is what can I buy this generic for today, the sell side is how can I make sure I maximize my reimbursements when I dispense that product? How can I make sure I've got the right patient access? How can I make sure I have the right performance metrics so that my net DIRs are maximized? These are tangible ways that a partner must provide to a community pharmacy so that they're not just looking at what's my generic invoice price on amoxicillin today. It's what am I doing as a business operator, as an entrepreneur, right? Not as a buyer, right? Buying is an important part of the equation. But today I'm not a buyer, today I'm an entrepreneur. Today I'm a healthcare provider. Today I'm someone who is a pivotal part of my community in providing healthcare, and I know that standing behind me, right, with my vendor partners, or in this case, my wholesale partner, I've got someone who is looking out for my best interest to make sure that I can do the things I need to do to be a profitable entrepreneur and a pivotal part of my community for years to come.
Rob, thanks so much for coming back on the show. This has been dynamic. Definitely want to get this podcast out to pharmacy owners that are on the ledge, that are just sick and tired of some of the status quo of their wholesaler and the opportunity to engage and work with H.D. Smith. So thank you so much.
Hey, Todd, keep telling the message. We love this market. Great people. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Rob.
We thank you for listening to the H.D. Smith Pharmacy Podcast Series, recorded live at the NCPA 2017. To learn more about topics impacting the independent pharmacy community, be sure to listen to all the podcasts in this 12-part series. As a reminder, H.D. Smith is the only national wholesaler dedicated solely to independent pharmacy owners. H.D. Smith's success is directly related to the success and profitability of privately owned independent pharmacies. To learn more about H.D. Smith, visit hdsmith.com.